Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brothers Take. I'm taking this week's episode. I'm Adam, joined by my brother Eric.
Hello.
And we're going to give our take on, well, what are we going to give our take on? What is there to discuss this week? Well, I think we should probably discuss the cinematic phenomenon that is
Right,
Barbenheimer.
give like a general review. Yeah.
Barbenheimer. And you were catching up on The Witcher 3 then as well, weren't you? Or The Witcher Season 3 rather than Witcher 3.
Yes, I was catching up on the game, putting an extra 500 hours into it.
Yeah. Well, that would be so unlike you, wouldn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Putting hours in the games.
Well, putting hours into that game in particular. Is it like your favorite game or something? I think I might have heard that on an episode one time.
I'm pretty sure I'm a good bit through my fourth playthrough of that game, I'm pretty sure. So
So with the release of Barbenheimer, I love that we're calling it that. The whole kind of talk around that cinematic event was just very similar, obviously on a larger scale, but it kind of reminded me of, because they're so different, right?
Right, okay.
The tone of Barbie and the tone of Oppenheimer are obviously very different. But it kind of reminded me of the release of Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. I love that you can have these two just obviously gigantic releases. They're both doing really, really well. Barbie more so than Oppenheimer, but I think Barbie's more suitable for a larger audience.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And I would say the same with Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal. Yeah. Totally different experiences. But what was your, when you were we decided to go on the opening day, wasn't it? Wasn't it opening day?
It was
opening weekend
because it came out the Friday. We saw it the Saturday.
Yeah.
So it was the opening weekend.
So what was your thoughts going into that?
I mean, first thing, because you're talking about this phenomenon that everyone's... The one thing I loved about it wasn't an or. Are you seeing Barbie or Oppenheimer? It's seeing Barbie.
Which one are you seeing first?
Yeah, it was that more so than, because usually these things, whenever movies are clashing or whatever, it's usually a versus concept. So I like this like unity concept of which one you seen first. But going into it, I kind of like a lot of things nowadays. I try not to have any expectations because I think it's better that way. I found it in the past with movies, if I had an expectation and it's not meeting that, or I have a prediction of how it's going to go and it doesn't do that, sometimes it can sour the experience. Other times it can raise it up if they do something really good. So with this one, I was just like, okay, what is this movie? What is it about? I know that's big hype to it. Honestly, Chris was probably the bigger hype guy than like everything else, because I think nearly any time we were talking about anything, Chris would eventually bring up Barbie and talk about how interesting it seems. So I was like, okay, let's give this a try.
I don't even know if he's went to see that yet.
I don't know if he has seen it, which I'm very surprised at.
He's seen Oppenheimer, all right.
He saw Oppenheimer, but yeah, I don't know if he's seen Barbie. And he was the guy who brought it up the most. Because he was telling me about the fact that they built the real sets and they had the painted backgrounds and stuff, which I loved. I loved the fact that the backgrounds were painted, and yes, the sets were always built, because it's always better to have a lived-in set. But yeah, he was the one bringing all that stuff up. He was the one who brought my attention to the feet thing.
All right.
I didn't see anything about that. He mentions it. The next day I see the trailer and the first image is the thumbnail is her feet. So
that's such a weird thumbnail.
Yes, it really is. Oh, they had a target audience with that thumbnail.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very surprised he didn't see it. But yeah, I'm sort of just kind of going in, no expectation, no real kind of idea what this movie's about, and just go for the ride, see what it's about.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I was like, I kind of figured I thought it was going to be a character study, which it actually was.
Mm.
And I think what's interesting is that now that it's come out, there's a lot of praise for the movie, but there's also a lot of well, not a lot. I wouldn't say it's a lot, but it's a loud minority who have distaste for the film.
Right.
Because
Which,
they don't.
To be honest,
they don't agree with the
nowadays,
message or whatever the case may be. Right? They don't like it, or there's things in there that aren't actually in there, and they're like latching onto that as though that's a problem and it's going to warp the minds of the youth. And what's funny is that I think you actually need that for a character study style film, right? Because it kind of reminds me a little bit, although again, tonally, very different movie. Joker is a character study.
Right, yes.
It's masterfully created, much like Barbie is.
Yeah.
The message, although I think the message of Joker is definitely less on the nose, however, that made people afraid of how it's going to end up warping the youth and all this kind of stuff, and and that's a very different audience than something like Barbie, and it's just like you just have to look at this stuff and go, just chill, right? It's a movie.
Yeah. But like, yeah, so nowadays having, like, I think I've seen something where it's like, I think on Rotten Tomatoes, its percentage is dropping due to review bombs.
Oh,
And
right,
it's like,
okay.
it's like, shocker, a movie is getting review bombs. It's like, shocker, there's people who don't like the movie. It's like, that's now just like a staple of a movie doing well, is when you have people who decide, no, we have to be up in arms about it.
You know what's interesting too is that, like, I think a lot of people would think that that type of outrage never existed. That movies today, like, I think Barbie is not necessarily saying anything different than other films hadn't said before. I don't think the message is new. I think the method in which it's saying the message is new.
Right.
But like, you could say like, oh, there's never been this type of outrage before. Incorrect. There just hasn't been this access to the internet to express said outrage.
Right, because it wasn't Liv Tyler for Lord of the Rings. She got fucking...
Yeah,
got
and if that had
massively-
been today, with access to all these review sites and social media, I'm sure she'd be receiving a lot more pressure.
A lot more, but it was still enough to really affect her. Because, like, that's with very little access to the internet. So, yeah, today it's worse in that it's more common or something, or it's louder than what it was back in the day. But yeah, I suppose it was always there.
I didn't like overly like. I enjoyed the movie, but I didn't think it was as good as everyone else is saying it is, and but I just think it's just ultimately it's not for me necessary. There's things in there that I really really enjoyed, but I'm glad this movie came out because it kind of just showed. I have voiced my my opinion a few times on my how tired I am of the same shit every year in the comic book movie area, action movie area. It's such relief to see these two films released at the same time, and they're just so different and risky. Like Barbie's not as if Barbie is like a unique take. Like I think there's been works on a Barbie movie for quite a while. It's just the method, the way they went about it is really really interesting, really really risky, and it's probably I think it is the highest performing.
I think it's best The Dark Knight.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Right. So then I don't know
how true it is.
Considering the studio,
Warner Brothers. Yeah,
Warner Brothers. Considering the fucking studio behind this, right? Which may have fucked up a few films in the past. For them to put out something this risky, but it's a female-led director and writer. She wrote it as well as directed it. And it's just, to me, that's like, okay, can we please now put more faith into more creatives? Like, it's not that it's like, oh yeah, we need more women in the industry. Like, you do, but it's not like that's not the point, but rather let's let the creatives go ahead and make what they want to make. because obviously the shit, they know what they're doing, this shit pays off. And the stuff that doesn't do well, surprise, surprise, is when Warner Brothers meddles with it.
Yeah. No, because I mean, even if you actually look at the old days of Warner Bros., early 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings are based on books, so you have a fan base there. But The Matrix isn't. The Matrix was such a risk to do with that, and it fucking did so well. Like, so it is, yeah, there is oftentimes, if you just let the directors do what they're doing, let the writers do what they're doing, they know what they're doing. They know their target audience, they know how to make the movies, let them do it. And yes, I'm glad Barbie came at 2, and I'd say another reason why it's doing so well, apart from just a wide, because it's 12A, so lots of people can go see it at various ages. It is something fresh, like you said. It's something fresh. It's not a superhero movie. It's not an action movie. It's not, you know what I mean. It is something that's very different, and then it's appealing to a particular audience, which are adults, because who would have grown up with Barbie, bringing then their children to see it.
Yeah, and a great way to rebrand the product too.
Yes.
In this kind of satirical way.
I like Lego, I suppose. Lego movie.
I think the Lego movie is probably less self-bashing.
True.
Barbie kind of doesn't hold back. But
no.
Speaking of comic book movie, one in particular gets a mention in the film, which was once a product of Warner Brothers and was certainly meddled with by them. Now there's been a small bit of discourse online and a little kind of heated discourse as well, based on the mention of Zack Snyder's Justice League. I won't mention the context in which it was said because I don't want to really spoil anything. But
it's a non-spoiler review. Yeah.
That movie did get a mention in there, which was so surprising. Because like that just goes to show how much of an impact in pop culture. Like I wonder if we were the only ones in that cinema that understood that reference.
Probably. Well, apart from Cam, who laughed so much because we were there in the audience.
Yeah. But like, it's just
you got a kick out of it
when you think about it. Like with what Barbie covers and what Barbie touches on, right? There are really iconic references in that film. And out of everything in the world to touch on, in order to speak to your audience, they chose Zack Snyder's Justice League. The amount of parents there bringing their kids to see this film, where I'm sure that just went right over their head.
Yeah, because this is not like they have, I think, quite close to the start or the sort of point of no return. It's just before the point of no return. There's Kate McKinnon makes a reference to another Warner Brothers movie, but it's only a reference. If you know the movie, you know what she's referencing. This is blatant. This is not. It says
the whole title. Not Justice League. Not Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah, this is the whole thing. I do have a theory that is probably one of the few things that Warner Bros. Went here, put that joke in there.
I wonder. I don't know. I'm sure we'll hear more about it maybe as,
because I know like Greta made a comment on it saying that she doesn't really know the ins and outs of it. She was aware of its existence, but she had no real attachment. So I'm a little like,
yeah, that's what's kind of weird about it. But I don't understand why Warner Brothers would want to put it in either. I imagine because they're after removing that film, I think, from their digital platform. I think like HBO Max or something like that. Like they're after removing it. So yeah. So I don't know why they would want to keep bringing it up as a reference if they're trying to bury it.
I think it's a middle finger because it's done in negative. It's done as a negative.
Well, I don't really want to get into the details of it, but still, I am interested to know. But I just think it doesn't matter the context in which that's brought up. It's just so interesting to see that is brought up in a Barbie movie. It was the last thing I was expecting when going into this.
I did hear that there was a joke about it in it.
Okay. I just think that's so odd. It's so weird.
It's a really weird one. Out of everything you could take the piss out of in life, that is a well, or is
Well, I just think it's weird.
like?
No, it's not weird to take the piss out of it because it's easy to take the piss out of it. But I think you'd expect that in another comic book related movie or something. I think it's the fact that it's in this where I would reckon. Obviously, I don't have numbers here, but I would guess 70% of the audience going to see this film hasn't a clue what that is.
Nope, probably not.
Because when you think about that, the only people that really know about Zack Snyder's Justice League are in the know.
Yes.
And it's not as if it was readily available. You had to kind of work to get it, right? You had to figure out in your country what service to sign up to at the time, or you needed to buy it on Blu-ray. It wasn't readily available. So yeah, I just think that was fascinating. I think that says a lot about the director and that film.
That movie did make a huge impact, I think,
yeah,
on all the people who did watch it.
Yeah.
And the people who are in the know, even the ones who didn't watch it but were still somewhat in the know. Yeah, I think the movie did make a huge impact. I mean, the amount of studies now that have been done, because this is one of those rare occasions. I love that we're talking about Barbie, but now we've just managed.
Any opportunity to talk about Zach, I'll take it.
But the fact that it's one of those few cases now where it's more or less the same movie as the 2017 one. So it's more or less the same story.
Yeah.
And then being able to go, how do two directors handle the same story? So it's a brilliant study to be able to go. I'd
love to do more of that. I would love to get. It was actually just before coming on to this, before we were chatting, I was watching a video talking about Guillermo del Toro's version of what The Hobbit would have been.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting.
I would love if we could like kind of do some sort of parallel universe shit. Right, I know people probably would want to save the world. No, I want to see Del Toro's version of The Hobbit because it sounded incredible. It actually sounded really good.
In this version of the universe, do we get Colin Trevorrow's version of Episode 9 of Star Wars?
Yes, and we'll get Neil Blomkamp's version of the Aliens sequel.
Of Aliens sequel?
Yeah.
So it's like not Alien 3.
Not Alien 3.
Coming off the aliens from the 70s.
Yeah, and it basically it ends up deleting essentially in the timeline Aliens and Alien 3 and Resurrection.
Wow, that's interesting. Because he's pretty good when it comes to like dealing with aliens. Did you ever see his joke on Netflix?
I don't think I have.
It's like all these short stories. One of them, he actually has Sigourney Weaver in it. Oh my god, the CGI and the way it's directed and all that sort of stuff. It's messed up, but it's great. Yeah, he's actually pretty good. He did District 9.
Yes.
He's good. And get Charlton Copley in it because he's fucking fantastic actor.
Yeah. I mean, he was going to do a sequel to Aliens, like almost like it's kind of horrible to say, but like a kind of an official Alien 3, I guess. But it's that the crews are still alive. Like Newt is still alive, Hicks is still alive. You know, it's not. It is Hicks, isn't it? It is Hicks.
Yeah, no, it is Hicks. I'm just trying to figure out how he would have done that. They would have all been older.
No, sure, they're in the cryo thing.
No, but the actors, no?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what his... I mean, we have the technology.
True.
We can do anything. But anyway, those are some of the films I would love to see. Anyway, I mean, with Barbie, I think, you know, we're not going to say anything that's going to like deter or make people watch the film. It's like it's this huge phenomena. You know whether you're going to go see it or not. I would say to the people who are really going out of their way to not watch the film based on things they might have heard, I think maybe ignore those. I think a lot of the messages that are going out there right now is not in this movie, and it's worth checking out. Just have a good time with it. I mean, you don't have to love it. You don't have to like it at all. I just think it is worth checking out, and it's just kind of a return to form of filmmaking, I think. You know, with the way they've used their sets, the way they used their costuming, and just the pacing of it. I think it's a really well paced movie. There wasn't a single moment where I'm like, "Well, this is dragging."
No, yeah, it was quite well paced. There'd be a certain section I think I'd probably be like, "Ooh, we could have redone it or just taken it out," just based on the whole.
Yeah, there's a single character I would change in that entire film, and I think it would make it a much better movie.
I think pretty much everyone else but that character really good and really solid. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are fucking phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah, I want a Ken movie. I think he was incredible. He was actually incredible. Like, it's really weird that... Huh?
Yeah. Ryan Gosling, so...
yeah. He's pretty good.
Pretty good everything.
But it's weird that when it comes to the Oscars, which I think this film is definitely going to take a... It's going to be in there somewhere. Best Supporting Actor is certainly going to be up against Ryan Gosling and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, probably.
Who would you give it to?
Oh, that's fucking tough. I feel like they'd give it to Ken.
Well, who would you give it to, based on the two performances you've seen?
I don't know who I'd give it to. I don't know, because again, there might be something else might come out in the year, and then I'd be like, ooh.
No, I know, but it's between them two. Let's say it's like, okay, these are the two.
I think I'd probably give it to Ken.
His name is Ryan.
He is now Ken.
He's now Ken. He is Ken enough.
I'd probably give it to Ken.
Yeah.
Based on kind of the range of character he goes through with the movie. And with also how the movie plays out. There's generally, like, honestly, because I watched all the Barbie movie and I was like, that's Ken. I watched all of Oppenheimer and I was like, he was really good. Can't remember the character's name. Strauss?
Yeah, Strauss, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But just got...
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would give it to Robert.
Okay. Very good.
Because the opposite. I thought, obviously, Ryan was brilliant as Ken, but I almost felt like it was an SNL sketch. And I've almost seen that performance before from him, like in a jokey way, where he's able to bring a level of emotion to kind of a comedic role.
Right, but that SNL sketch that he's in,
yeah,
the Papyrus one, is the best SNL sketch.
It's great. It is great. But what I'm saying is that I've seen this from him before. Yeah. I understand his. I did not see Robert in that entire film. So this is leading us into Oppenheimer. Okay. I have not seen. I absolutely 100% believe that this was this Strauss character. I was like, yes, he looks like Robert, but I'm used to Robert being more charismatic, a little bit quippier, like quick talking. This guy, he looked like an older dude, for one. Performed like one, and just the way he delivers his lines as well. I was just, I just believed. I was innerly expecting there's going to be a quip in here somewhere. Right? He's going to have a one-liner. You're going to have a punchline somewhere, and it just didn't happen. And it's one of the best performances I've seen from him.
Yeah, I was really surprised with. Yeah, because we are so. I mean, last 10 years, before 10 years, he was Iron Man, the fast-talking, quippy superhero. And in this movie, he is the opposite. He is
but even outside of Iron Man, right? Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. No, he is that. I mean, that's what he is, I think, in reality.
Yeah, all the time.
That is what he is. Like,
he's never acted before.
Yeah, this typecast. He actually builds suits and solves crimes. So I think for this, it was quite nice to see him in a role where he, very different, not as sort of, well, I mean, it's hard to say hero when it comes to this movie, but he is a questionable character. Now, everyone in it is kind of a questionable character, but it's nice to see Robert be someone where you're a bit like, oh, I didn't expect you to do that now. That was a bit dicky of you now.
Yeah. So Oppenheimer, then, what was your thoughts before going into that one?
Thoughts going into this movie again? Not a lot because of the fact that I try not to have expectations or thoughts and just kind of take in the whole movie. But I suppose I was going into this movie with more of a okay. We had our cutesy pink movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get fucking serious. Let's get down to business. Let's take in this
Do you know the first trailer
epic.
I saw for Oppenheimer was when we went to see Mission Impossible?
Oh, really?
Yep. I
You're
haven't
so
seen
good
anything,
Like,
right?
you're so good at avoiding trailers. I don't know how you do it.
But the first time I saw it was in cinema, and has this giant countdown to when it's going to be released, and I got so hyped. Then I was like, I cannot wait to see this movie. So after seeing it, then what was your kind of initial impressions when it was over?
A little bit. Okay, the very first thought that came to my head when the movie was over, boy, my arse is sore.
Yeah, I was peeling myself off the chair.
Yeah. It was very hot in there, and it is quite a long movie. There is probably 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes they could have shaved off this movie.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was like, yeah, that was a phenomenally well-made movie. But I do wish they focused on one particular aspect a little bit more of the movie than they actually did. But I suppose I kind of went into the movie. So I suppose that idea. I went into the movie expecting one thing, and what I got was what we actually got. So I was like, okay. So I went into this thinking it was. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say in your spoiler or anything like that.
Well, the thing is with Oppenheimer, right? It's like if you don't know what happens in this movie in terms of major events, well done. You've avoided history. I mean, I suppose there's key moments in the way it's kind of the way it plays out and the things he focuses on. I think are obviously part of the art of it, and I wouldn't want to talk about them. But I mean, if you don't realize that Oppenheimer worked on the A bomb, and that was I suppose trialed as well for his connections with
See, I didn't actually know
communism.
about that part, and that part was really interesting. I really liked.
Yeah, I think that's where the film. I agree. I think the film felt really, really long, and I think was about the halfway point, maybe 2 hours in, where I did start to look at my watch.
Okay.
I was like, oh my god, like this is really. This needs to get to some fucking point, like where and it's when it gets to that moment where he is being trialed. I think that's my favorite part of the film. I think the edits that are put there, it's at that moment where, because the movie, if you know Nolan, you know that the way he plays with intercutting different timelines into his edits, that's something that he's kind of well known for. So this movie does that quite a bit, where it's kind of hopping between times, back and forward. It's at that trial moment. That's the moment where that I was like, oh, okay, I understand why he's doing this. Like, it's all kind of coming together now. Whereas before, it kind of felt unnecessary. Like it was almost too quick.
Yeah, it almost felt for a lot of the movie, it just felt like you're Christopher Nolan and you're doing a Christopher Nolan thing right now.
Yeah.
A bit like Tenet, to be honest. The Tenet, there was edits there. It was like, you're doing this because you're Christopher Nolan and you're trying to make this more convoluted and awkward than it has to be. And yeah, for a good lot of it, and it's only I suppose with the trial, because the trial, it starts to get like this that beat where
there's a rhythm to it. Yeah,
there's a rhythm to it, and you're always away with it, and the music starts to kind of build up and drum into it, and you're like,
and the dialogue is excellent.
Roller coaster of like different people's reactions, and you're like, oh my god, they got him, oh no, he got them, and then you're like, it's the trial section is very good. The other entertaining thing about the movie is playing Who's Who for the whole movie.
Yes. So Won't discuss who's who, but there is probably a major actor in every scene.
A notable actor, yeah.
Yeah.
Notable actor in every scene.
And that really surprises me, considering this film had a budget of 100 million.
That's really quite low nowadays.
Considering the film too.
Yeah.
Like that's what I love about the two films that came out, right? You've got Barbie, which is something that's risky. Like, I don't think Oppenheimer is risky necessarily. But Barbie, I think, is risky, and I think studios need to put more faith into the director, into the writer, and just let them do their job, because they clearly know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have something like Oppenheimer that shows, look what you can do with such a small fucking budget. And considering he has so many major actors in it, like, what's he... And this movie, there's like, you'll notice from the trailers, has black and white moments, right? So he shot this whole thing in IMAX.
Yeah. There
isn't an IMAX camera that can shoot black and white. They had to invent one.
They
had to fucking make one. At least that's what I heard, or at least they modified an IMAX camera so that it could shoot black and white. So it's like, what did he do with this? He's a master of finance then. Like, what happened to the money?
He must have just paid all the actors in lunch.
Or so much of them said, look, we don't mind the small pay. I just want the opportunity to work for you. And it's like, that's such a rare opportunity to get. Like, this is kind of an artsy movie in a way. And it's so rare to get films like that. Like, I don't know the last time we got a film like Oppenheimer.
Been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, or we missed it. One or the other.
Yeah, or it just
might not have crossed our radars.
Didn't wasn't marketed as heavy as this one. But I do think he's the only director that could have done this in, because I do think it's an entertaining film. Like, it's long. I do think it's long, and there were moments where I was not bored necessarily, but just wanting it to pick up, right? I think any other director, this would have been a drag, because there's like, I don't know how, it's not exactly, he didn't exactly have the most exciting life in a cinematic sense, Oppenheimer.
Right.
Yeah. But it's not as if he went off and fought the fucking Nazis, on the front lines and then came back or something like that. It wasn't that. So I do think he's the only director that could have made it as entertaining as it is.
Well, I suppose that was the kind of somewhat clever part of including the trial. Was to add that bit of tension and drama and stuff to it. Otherwise, yes, it was just them doing some mathematic equations.
Yeah.
And it's, I suppose, what's that movie? A Beautiful Mind with
Russell Crowe?
Russell Crowe. I mean, that movie gets
but you see, that is exciting though. That is exciting because have you seen A Beautiful Mind?
I actually haven't.
All right, so in that film, actually I won't say it because it's worth watching.
I know there's a twist.
You should watch it.
There's a twist,
but there is kind of a thriller aspect to A Beautiful Mind.
Okay.
A sense of espionage a little bit in it, which this film could have had. They could have gone down an espionage route. They decided not to. They just focused purely on Oppenheimer himself. So, which is probably the right thing to do. I think if the movie's about him, you should focus on him.
Probably focus on him. Yeah, it might make sense. Yeah.
But it's as much as it was kind of tiring to watch. Just I can only imagine how tiring it was for Cillian. His performance in that is unfucking believable. Definitely his best performance, I think, from what I've seen. And every shot, there's not a single shot I don't think where he's not the center of frame. Maybe actually the Strauss scenes, right, where Strauss is in his office. There's those moments, but it's so quickly intercut to moments with Oppenheimer.
Back to him. Back to Oppenheimer. Yeah, and I heard that like he wrote the script in the first person, which is something a lot of the actors are saying that they've never seen before done to just make sure that you get into the mindset of Oppenheimer. So it wouldn't be Oppenheimer walks across the room. It's I walk across the room. So
Interesting.
which is kind of it's an interesting way. So not only did he get experimental with the movie and invented IMAX camera, he invented not invented, but just reworked how to write a script.
I came out of it and I was like, I don't know if I want to see that film again, just because it was so long, and I felt like I got everything out of it. But I tell you, a week away from it, I couldn't stop thinking about this movie, and I had like questions
that need answering.
I think like from the two films, I think the biggest difference, apart from just the how serious one is, I think the biggest difference between these two movies, and is why I prefer Oppenheimer over Barbie as a movie ultimately, is Barbie tells you what you should think.
Yes,
there's a message in Barbie, and it's not just implied; it's actually said. There's a character in the movie that tells you the message of the movie.
Yes.
And I'm not really into movies like that. I don't mind. I think movies should have a message, because I think it's an art form. Every piece of art should have a message. But I think art should be interpreted. I think people should come away with it. Like there's people going to come away with Oppenheimer, I think, with different takes on that film.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I don't think it's explicit in its message.
No, probably not. Well, I mean, there is one message that's going to come away, which is pretty to the point. The development of this thing was a bad idea. But other than that, you do have other things.
But it wasn't. And in the same sense, right? So it's not that the invention of it was a bad idea. It was the use case of it is a bad idea. Because with the invention, what they managed to do and what they managed to achieve, right? Without that, you wouldn't have had the further developments that came along with it, which are actually used. Like, for example, they use newer forms of radiation for cancer treatment, which came from the studies of that.
Right.
So it's like this thing where it's like you can't have the greatness without the destructive power of it. It was the use case of it which was bad. However, even the badness of that use case, there's like other situations where if that wasn't used, other horrific things could have happened too.
Well, I suppose like you're killing, what is it? They killed 40,000 people, probably to save 100.
I think that I don't know the actual figures of it. I think it probably was way higher than that.
Probably, she was two cities. But like that idea, you're killing. I don't know if I want to say small amount, because it was a lot.
No, it was a huge amount. But
it was to stop the war. Which, if the war kept going, probably more than that would have died.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly you're getting to hypothetical territory, but that's what the film, I think, invites you into
to do is
talk about is that, like, because even the way they portray Oppenheimer, it's like the lines he says. If you just read the script and just read the lines that he has to say, he sounds like a horrible man. However, when you see his face after he said them, you can tell he didn't mean those things, and that in there was probably a good man. And I think that's what's really interesting about Cillian's performance and the way they show that the character in the movie. It's like they show him his excitement and eagerness to do this work, but less eager to use it. I think that's really another interesting character study, I guess. But I just don't think it's very clear. I think anyone could come away from this film going, man, he was an asshole. And they'd be right. They're not wrong to say that. Or they could come away from it and go like, what a genius. Yes. And I don't think they're wrong there either. And I think realistically, Oppenheimer shows us that even the best of us are incredibly flawed.
Well, don't they two usually go hand in hand?
I know, but you know, in movies, like no one wants to show someone, especially such a like that as a figure as well. You know, the father of the atomic bomb, and I know that. Well, that in itself sounds horrible, but
Yeah.
it's just a they do kind of prop him up to be a little bit of a hero, you know.
Well, I suppose this is probably the handy thing though about having an outside director looking at Oppenheimer and Oppenheimer's story, because he would
Maybe
look at it from the perspective of just the history and the facts, and then building the story around that writer. While if you have someone from the country wanting to talk about somebody, they might build them up a bit because there'd be that biased sort of attitude, maybe.
I don't know. I think Fincher would paint him in a bad light.
Well, Fincher could probably get a puppy and paint it in a bad light.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the nice thing about this film is that it really shows the human. Like, I don't think there's a single nice person in this film, really.
I think if there are, you don't talk to them. You barely see. There are a lot of actors who are like, "Holy shit, I know that person. Holy shit, I know that person," and they get like two, three lines maybe in the whole
Yeah,
movie. Other than that,
yeah,
they're just kind of sitting on a chair and be all like, "Yeah, well, I agree." And so they're probably the nice people. Maybe I don't know because I don't know the story, but
yeah. So I said I probably wouldn't see this again, but that's an absolute lie. I think I will watch this movie again, and I think we should probably. I need to check out his other work as well. I think there's only one other film I haven't seen by Nolan,
there'll be two for me.
but I think we need to check him out, and we need to do a rank list
Ranking.
of Christopher Nolan movies
Oh boy,
after
well,
watching
how can we
Oppenheimer.
piss people off with this one?
I enjoyed this movie, and I think it's a really well made movie, but I don't think it's certainly not up there with his best work. I don't think,
No.
but it is well
I
done.
I preferred this to Dunkirk and Tenet.
Same, and I actually rewatched Dunkirk this week.
Yeah.
I keep rewatching that movie, not because I enjoy it, right? It's because I want to understand why it's loved so much.
That's like me with now I know the reviewers actually didn't like Age of Ultron,
Yeah,
but like when I was growing up, people
people
loved Age
liked
of
it.
Ultron. Yeah, and I just kept watching that movie going, how are people liking this? Because every time I watched it, I found something else to dislike about the movie.
Right. It's not that I dislike Dunkirk. I just don't think it's as.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
think it's
think
lacking something, and I think that's what it is. I think it's still a good movie.
well, this is the thing, right? It's we say it's not a good movie in terms of like in comparison to other Christopher
Yeah,
Nolan
in
movies that
comparison to
came
like
out
the Dark
previous.
Knight.
Dark Knight or Inception or something. But I think I said it before. I think we talked about Dunkirk before. I said it's like if nearly any other director did this, it's really good. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe, I don't know. I think I do give it a little bit more credit because it's Nolan.
Oh, you've
Actually,
been
I think
biased, man.
I think there's probably a little bit of bias there where I know it's him, therefore I kind of understand. It's weird, yeah. It's like when you understand the artist, I guess you start to understand the decisions they've made and
Hmm.
why they've done it. And it's more that I can respect the decisions based on this artistic vision as opposed to just me. Whereas when I don't have any connection with the artist whatsoever, which is probably why it's really hard for me to get into fucking comic book movies, actually. Like I have I like Zack Snyder's comic book movies because I understand the artist and I understand the decisions he's made. I might not like some of the decisions he's made, but I understand where he's coming from. Whereas I think with other comic book movies, apart from the Russo brothers, let's just say, it's almost like as if the studios are trying to make the director not even the face of the movie at all. It's about the characters. So therefore, you have absolutely no connection with the director and their artistic decision.
Yeah, because I got most of the directors coming out of the comic book movies nowadays. Most of them I wouldn't be able to tell you who directed that. But then someone else might go, "Oh, such director directed." Let's say the first Doctor Strange, and I might be like, "Oh wow, actually I know that director," but I just wouldn't have a clue because I find it they're so formulaic.
Yeah, it's almost like as if
just
once they get involved in that machine, it's like all their directive decisions are taken away from them.
Which is probably one of the things that made Sean Gunn so likable, is that Guardians were very
James Gunn.
James Gunn. I mean, Sean Gunn worked on them too. But James Gunn, yeah, they're just very James Gunn movies. You know what I mean? They kind of had.
Yeah, and I think he kind of. I actually blame him. I think he made the formula really of where Marvel should be, and where comic book movies should be.
Oh, as in.
I think we say it's Joss Whedon who created the formula. I don't think so. I think Guardians of the Galaxy set the formula of what a comic book movie should be from there on out.
That would depend on when that one came out, the comparison.
Was that not a phase 1? No, phase 2? It was phase 2?
It was phase.
It was just, yeah, so it would have been after...
Because Iron Man 2, I think, was... No, Iron Man 2 was before...
Iron Man 2 was phase 1.
Yeah.
So it would have been after Iron Man 3.
I don't know. Iron Man 3 also had those shitty jokes.
Not really. There's not many jokes in Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 is trying to take itself too seriously.
Is it?
Because when you think about it, yeah, so you had Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, and Captain America Winter Soldier.
Right, they're trying to take themselves seriously.
That didn't fucking work. Then you have Guardians of the Galaxy comes along.
It's being fun and quirky. Okay, maybe.
I think that kind of set, and I think every movie since then has been very similar to that. Which is fine in the context of that movie. It's like that movie's, it does it well. I just don't think every movie needs to be the same as it. Like I like Taika Waititi as a director. I actually like his work, but I don't see his work when I watch Thor. Okay. I think I just I think it just strips the director from it. So yeah, I do think there's a bit of bias when I watch a Nolan movie, just because I kind of understand the artist and I can see his decisions that he's making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we should definitely at some point we'll rank the Nolan.
Some point, yeah, I'll have to get around to watch Insomnia and whatever his first movie was.
Following. I have to watch Following.
Okay.
I might rewatch Insomnia because I think I watched that in the context of understanding Nolan. And it doesn't feel like a Nolan movie really, and I think I just need to rewatch it with and just take it for what it is really.
I think because you said coming out of Oppenheimer you wouldn't watch it again. I thought you meant as in you weren't going to like go back to the cinema anytime soon and watch it again. Not that.
No, I meant forever, ever.
Oh right, okay. I did not know you meant that. But anyway, you don't, because you're going to watch it again someday. But I was more of that mindset. It's like I've seen the movie because one of my friends who was up in Dublin, she was asking me if I was going to go up and they were going to watch the movies and stuff. And I kind of just straight away at the end of the day went, yeah, I've seen those movies.
I'm good.
They're heavy. I'm good. You just go ahead and watch them. So I think they're watching Oppenheimer tonight of recording, and then they're watching Barbie at the weekend.
Okay, so now after we watched both Barbie and Oppenheimer, do you think the order in which we watched it was the superior order? And why do you think it is?
I like it. Yeah, I do. Yes, I do think we watched it in the better order, because we watched it at like 10 to 12. No, we watched it about 12 o'clock. Let's
in the morning.
In the morning, 12 o'clock.
Watched in the afternoon, yeah.
Midday.
Finished by lunch.
And I think that was, finished by lunch. Go out. We got some tea. We got some second breakfast. It was great. And then we went back for Oppenheimer. I think that was better because it's fun. It's quick. It's quirky. It's bright. It wakes you up and doesn't require a lot of brain power. So we were able to
kind of focus.
Wake up and focus for Oppenheimer. So
yeah, I think you might feel a little bit drained if anyone hasn't seen these movies yet, which is kind of shocking. But if you're about to decide, I I think it's worth watching Barbie first. If you're doing it in one day, that is. If you're doing it in separate days, then whatever order you want. But I think if you're doing it in one day like what we did, I think Barbie first. Oppenheimer, I think, will drain you. I think it is a long movie, and I don't think it needs to be as long as it is. But two films I think worth watching for sure.
Very entertaining.
Is The Witcher season 3 worth watching?
If
is
you
that done now? Is it out fully?
Yeah, the whole thing's out. Yeah, the whole thing's out. It's 8 episodes. So they had Volume 1 was 5 episodes and Volume 2 was 3 episodes. So they kind of did something similar to Stranger Things season 4. If you didn't really like Witcher season 1 or season... Actually, you never even watched season 2 because you just didn't like season 1.
Yeah.
I'd probably reckon I'd just say it wouldn't be for you, to be honest. But they fix his eyes in this one.
What was wrong with his eyes?
I remember watching season 1. I didn't really notice as much. Season 2, I was just like, what is wrong with his eyes? It's like they're these huge, bright orange, like owl eyes almost. Like whatever way it is, the contact lens. They just look like giant bird eyes. They're really bright. And they're looking in every other direction but at the person he's talking to. They're really jarring.
Right, okay.
And I think sometimes they use contact lenses for Yennefer and Ciri. And that was sort of the same problem. Sometimes it was just these really bright. No, they never used it for Yennefer. I have no idea why. They just never used it for Yennefer. But for Ciri, they used it. These big, bright, ridiculous, fucking bulging contact lenses.
Yeah, I like chameleon effect.
Yeah, and it's just like, what is going on? So in this one, they fixed it by using CGI.
Sure.
just CGI the eyes to be the color or something, or they got better contact lenses. I don't know. Witcher season 3, from what I can see, the monsters are still awesome.
Okay.
The monsters are better. The CGI is better. The sound design is better. One of the monsters, I think, is in episode 2 or 3. It looks like something straight from Silent Hill.
Oh, cool.
It's such a cool and messed up design. It's like, holy crap, that is some horror aspect stuff going on there. Story aspect, it's very much, I found when watching this going, I feel like I need to watch season 1, 2 before I watch this.
Oh, does it tie in heavily or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it does feed from one to the next, but it was a bit sort of like, almost felt, you know, they talk about starting in the middle of the story, but there is a nice blend of starting in the middle of the story but easing people back in. Like, it has been a year or two since the last season of The Witcher, so it is a bit like, no, ease me back into this because you're going all out. CGI has improved for sure, but storytelling, I don't think so. And
so which is the best season in your mind?
I honestly, and this is going to annoy you, this is season 1.
Well, it's not going to annoy me. It's just not. I just
Well, it's not annoy you, but you're going to.
I couldn't get into it. But I am curious to know from a Witcher fan, like, how does it feel watching it, knowing that this is the end of the Henry run?
It feels very like Henry doesn't want to be there. Sometimes he's saying dialogue and he's just saying it. And less focus on him in this season.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Like, it's not as if it's Liam's Hemsworth, isn't it?
He's going to be taking over, yeah.
Not his fault, of course. I'm sure he's going to do a great job. But I do feel like there's probably going to be a drop in interest.
Oh, massively. Like, I've seen many people go, this is it, this is my last season, and fuck them, blah, blah, blah. Now, the fight scenes are awesome. In the first episode of season 3, there's a big fight scene battle at the end of it, and it's all done in, like, one take. I do quotation marks, one take, like, because they definitely do cheap cuts, but just following him and just the sword play and using the use of magic. Now, this is one thing, because it's just one of the episodes I just watched for Volume 2, and again, there's another big battle between the mages and some other characters. And I am watching this going, how the fuck does magic work in this world? Because, like, season 1, they talk about having to channel your chaos and you can't do magic without taking something. And now this bit, everyone's just fucking throwing spells all over the place. I'm like, your spell magic. I don't know if that's
maybe that's the Harry Potter effect.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's like Andrzej Sapkowski didn't finalize the rules or something of magic, or the show
just didn't give a fuck.
It just didn't give a fuck. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
But the sets are cool. I like the sets. They have lived in sets, built sets, which is always nice. And again, the CGI is improved, and the monsters are awesome.
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of the whole situation a little bit of the Spartacus TV show, which I was a big fan of. And of course, they couldn't have. It's not their fault that they had to change actor, obviously, due to the passing of Andy Whitfield.
Yeah.
And I think Liam did a great job at Spartacus. But just the interest fell off then. It's like as if the show just didn't feel the same, and the quality dropped, and I don't even think I'd seen the last season of that. I think I might have watched some episodes, but there was just something off. And it's not Liam. It's not the fact that they had to change the actor, but it's almost like as if changing the actor has changed the attitude of the entire production of it. So I fell off of it, and I just wonder if it's going to be. Well, it clearly is going to be a very similar thing when season 4 of Witcher comes along.
Yes, yeah, people will drop off. I mean, I'll give it a watch just to see.
Is it more? What would be the most important thing for you in order to keep your attention with next season?
For me personally, the most important thing now is actually improve on storytelling.
It's the method of storytelling.
It's the method of story that this season.
It's got everything else down. It's just that.
Yeah, I'm watching the season going. Your dialogue seems a little like our shit, like, and your way of story, like they're supposed to be having like that kind of Game of Thrones politics element in it. But there's just at one point, everyone's like, we all know that this person's a real villain. I'm like, okay, I know you're supposed to drop breadcrumbs. Like, let me piece things together. But you just gave me an extra, you just gave me an empty tray. Like, I don't know how you piece that shit together. No clues were ever dropped for you.
Kind of a recurring issue, I think, across the industry, isn't it? The writing. I think, like, in every other aspect, like, things are pretty good. It's almost like as if, I don't know, maybe the writers need to be paid more or something. Maybe?
I don't know. Maybe they might have to go on strike.
They might have to just do that. And I think the industry is going to have to listen to them. And because they're incredibly important. If you don't have a good writer, you don't have anything. I don't care how good your CGI studio is. It's nothing. It's a artistic showcase if it doesn't have good writing behind it. Okay, anything else you want to discuss?
I mean, another show got continued is they got a new season on Netflix. Not that you're gonna care or know that it exists or even know that I'm watching it. That's called that show is called The Dragon Prince. It's made by
Prince.
Yeah, it's made by the same guy who actually did Avatar: The Last Airbender.
All right.
And it's like a high fantasy show. They're continuing that. So I was watching.
Is it an anime or is it live action?
It's animated.
All right. Okay.
Has that weird sort of like, it looks like a drawing, but it's all like computer generated. You know, that
Arcane?
kind of thing. Sort of, but less stylized than that.
All right.
But Arcane is great. I'd love for that to have a season 2.
I'm sure they'll probably get around to it at some point.
Like that's a true sign of what writing does for you, because the game is nothing like that.
Yeah. That's true. I think you'd be very disappointed if you played the game after watching Arcane.
Yeah, I see a lot of memes where it's like a father comes home, he's like, "Oh, where's Timmy?" He's like, "Oh, he's upstairs playing League of Legends after that show." He's like, "Oh no!" And he runs up and Timmy's crying because he's like, "It's nothing like the show."
Yeah.
What about you? Anything on your plate?
Not really. I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom, and I mentioned I was rewatching Dunkirk, and I've been really wanting to, I just don't have the time for it, right? But I've bought this copy of Watchmen, the Ultimate Cut, I think it's called.
Is that 8 hours long or something?
It's 4 hours. But it's just I don't have the time to fucking watch it, right? Because I don't want to like break it up. I want to sit there in one go. But basically, it's supposed to be the director's cut, and then every so often it intercuts the animation of the Black Freighter.
Okay, right, yeah.
Into the moments where the person would be reading that comic.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be like the things that are happening. Well, if you, I don't know in the context of the movie, but at least in the comic, the Black Freighter story is like almost on a meta level telling you the story of what's happening in Watchmen at the time.
Okay.
So it's like there's a direct connection, and I'm kind of hoping that's in the film. But I just I got that ages ago. But this week I was going to sit down and watch it, but I was like, I don't have 4 hours to watch this, so I'm just gonna see about making some sort of time dilation machine or something.
Is it on the one disc?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I suppose that's kind of somewhat the handy.
It's a Blu-ray. It's not a 4K Blu-ray. I don't think.
Okay, so that's the handy thing about Zack Snyder's Justice League, is it's not only is it split up into 8 parts or 7 parts, it also is on 2 discs. So if you can't,
you can break it up. Yeah, it's not 4 hours straight. You can break it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, apart from that, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom. That thing is, that's just such a good game.
And you haven't played any of the story.
It's much of the same. I've been doing a little. No, I haven't actually. Yeah, I've gotten all of the towers. I've done all the towers so that I have all the map completely done, and I've done a number of shrines in each area too. And the reason I've done that is, one, I was really eager to go visit places I've seen before. And 2 was so that when I am doing story beats or side quests and stuff like that, I can just zip to the area that I want to go to. But yeah, I mean, it's much the Tears of the Kingdom, but it just feels like a much improved version of Breath of the Wild.
That game is also really good.
It is good, but there are annoyances with Breath of the Wild, I think, that I have, and Tears of the Kingdom kind of addresses a lot of them. Mostly because you can just, shoot up like a building, essentially. Like, that's really the way you can get elevated in the game. There's multiple ways you can do it. There's like if there's a ceiling above you at a certain height, you can just go up through that up onto the top of it. If you've got you can make a device if you wanted to try and get up higher, fly up higher. And then there's rocks that fall from the sky that you can use a reverse time on them so that it brings you back up into the sky. Like, you just got all these little elevators around the place. So the way you can gain height, and as well as the towers in this one, when you sync with them, like in the first one, you have to climb to the top of them, and it just syncs with your little pad thing. In this, it shoots you up into the sky like a cannon. And he scans the area while he's in the air. So when you're coming back down, you're already in the air to like kind of go wherever you want. Like, it's the elevation, how quickly it is to get up into the sky to travel in it. Like, it's quick to traverse in this game. I have they're
very air obsessed in this one.
Yes, they are. I've got very little use for my horse in this one. But that was actually cool. Actually, one of the first things I did was when I came across a horse stable was to try and get a horse, bring it over and register it to the stable, because I knew I was going to, or I felt I was going to need one. And then when I went over to the stable, all my horses from Breath of the Wild carried over. They were there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, they survived. That's a good ass stable.
Well, it's not necessarily like something bad happened yet, let's just say. Like, it's not like the world was destroyed or anything.
Why is everything floating in the air then?
That part I don't really know yet, but it's not everything. It's not. It's like things are falling from the sky, I think, more so than things raising up into the sky. I think.
Oh,
I don't really know.
The moon is falling down on top of you again.
Yeah. Majora all over. Okay.
I think there was talks, actually, of doing a movie of Legend of Zelda.
Really?
Although I think there's been talks about doing that for the last 20 years.
Okay. Well, that would be an interesting discussion as to what would you like to see from a Zelda movie?
Well, yours would be Wind Waker.
No, I don't mean I even just everything like style. Another discussion. It's another discussion.
Okay, sorry.
Discussion for another time. Yeah, we'll finish up there. So thanks everyone for checking in. If you're going to check out Barbenheimer or Open, I don't even know how it works the other way around, but let us know what order you're going to watch it, or if you have seen them, give us your thoughts and take on each movie. If you enjoyed this discussion, please leave a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and click that notification bell. If you're on YouTube, if you're listening to us on audio platforms, you can contact us on either Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at The Brothers Take. Soon we're going to have to say not Twitter, I think. We're going to have to change that little icon and
contact us on X.
You can X us. You can check out this X video on the platform.
I've seen that joke already on the internet. It's great.
Yeah. That thing is an absolute disaster. Like, well, yeah. It'll be interesting to see the future of that platform.
Let that sink in.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. We'll chat to you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.